Hey guys, Akiba here for CryptoSlate. Today we have a special treat for you. We have Wes Levitt, Head of Strategy for Theta Labs. How you doing, Wes?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Akiba.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, do you want to just do a brief sort of introduction of, sort of who you are, and we'll kind of go from there?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I'm Wes from Theta Labs. I'm head of strategy for Theta Labs, which is the company behind Theta blockchain and the Theta ecosystem. High level, what we do, Theta is a layer one blockchain, and around that, we build decentralized products that focus on the media and entertainment space. Primarily, where we got our start is distributing decentralized video, and so that's our core, I would say, product we build around a peer-to-peer network for delivering video in a decentralized way and using the Theta blockchain as the accounting system for that. Then along the way, we've expanded that into other things that serve media and entertainment, like our Theta Video API, which allows anyone to use decentralized video on any website or app, just drop it in with a very easy API call. Or our Theta Edge node, which now expands into video encoding and video storage and other types of that. And then the last core piece I would say is a lot of people now, what they're familiar with is our Theta Drop NFT platform that launched last year. So we see that as a really interesting piece too, because even though we focus more on the infrastructure side in media and entertainment, a lot of our partners like Creative Artist Agency, and some that we've done NFT drops with, like Katy Perry and World Poker Tour, they were excited about the consumer level engagement with the blockchain community too. Hence our Theta NFT platform.
hmm It's super interesting. My original background was actually in film and TV, so I'm very interested in the whole project. I started off directing and moved into running my production company, turned into a full service marketing company. So did a lot of live streaming and video, and still do in some parts. There's two tokens that work. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, you know all about what we're aiming for then.
Yeah. So there's two tokens, isn't there? So there's T Fuel and there's a data tool. So how do they work together? Just again, just trying to give everyone a kind of a base understanding before we go into a bit more detail.
Yeah. So the easiest way to understand it, like I said, there's two native tokens of the blockchain. There's Theta, which is the governance token and staking token of the protocol, and then Theta Fuel, T Fuel, as it's usually known as, which is the gas token of the protocol, and that pays for everything from smart contract interactions to if you send a transaction, if you vote on a proposal, anything that uses the blockchain burns a small amount of T Fuel as the gas of it. So both kind of concepts, I think, probably pretty familiar to most people. Although in some chains they're combined, in Theta it's broken out into two different tokens.
Yeah. Okay. So the question I love to ask people working in projects is: so what does Theta Labs and the Theta ecosystem mean to you personally?
Yeah. Again, I think we hew really close to what we try, even though we welcome anyone who wants to build on Theta, and it is permissionless, open source, and all that. But media and entertainment is why we originally launched this project to begin with, and
hmm
that's sort of North Star. And so, to me, it's what it means to me is taking the benefits of blockchain decentralization and letting anyone in entertainment benefit from it. And that can go anywhere from a big video platform who can reduce their costs by using Theta infrastructure. It means content creators that want to launch NFTs. It means in on the video side, one thing we're really excited about is an NFT DRM product we launched. And
hmm
the
Yeah, we'll get
crux of
onto that. Yeah, that's interesting.
content, yeah, as a content creator, you can control and tell you who watches your streams or monetizing your content. So not DRM in the sense of locking you out of something you bought, like a lot of people think of it, but this is more like if you have some exclusive content that you want to have subscribers only be able to watch it, or some other way to gate that. We give the power to the content creators to have full control over who can access it and who doesn't. So if you have an NFT for your fans, anyone who buys that NFT or trades for it or something can watch it, and that's the only way to get access to it. So you know
That
yeah,
that
it's a
that
summarize where basically we want to take all the different interesting things that can be done with blockchain, and we want to productize that into things that content creators, media companies can use.
that's a space that really needs support, isn't it? 'Cause I mean, there's so many platforms that if you're trying to give exclusive content, it's either like an unlisted YouTube video that's no good because anyone can share that, or
Mhm.
something like, I mean, Vimeo, I think, is one of the platform that people most tend to lean to on it, which isn't cheap either. So, I mean, how easy is it to integrate into this service for content creators that say, yeah, they want to start doing videos for like Patreon members, but not be linked
Yeah.
into a centralized server?
Yeah, it's quite simple actually because it's wrapped into the product I mentioned earlier, the Theta Video API, where anyone can submit a video to this service and get back one line of code they can embed anywhere, and then it'll run on the video will be distributed to anyone who watches it through Theta's peer-to-peer network. And it's very simple. Once we introduce the NFC DRM, it's actually just another option within that. So you don't need to have a significant coding experience to be able to do this. It basically just wrapped up into this Theta Video API product. And then any NFTs you launch, if you want to point to it that it can access this video, it's very simple to do so through the website. And so that's a key point, because we don't expect every streamer out there, everyone, like a media company who they're very heavy in media, but they don't understand blockchain technology. We don't want them to have to a significant degree just to use this, because otherwise you're not going to have a lot of adoption if you expect someone in a different industry to all become blockchain experts just to get the slightest benefit out of it. That's what we're trying to do for them.
Yeah, I think when we talked on the space last week, and that was one of the things that we were talking about, in that in crypto, majority of intermediate to advanced users kind of understand more about like blockchain than they do about any other sort of service like TCP/IP, or like the way your banking system works. And
Right.
yeah, that is restrictive for new users. So from a content creator's point of view, is it then just a matter, once they hook into the API, they get better code, there's just something else to allow you to kind of link your wallet to their website so you can verify the NFT? Is it just, again, is that simple SDK, or how does that work?
Yeah, you just need to point to the smart contract that issued the NFTs. Of course, you do have to launch NFTs as part of that. But again, if you don't know how to do that, we have an NFT mentor that can be used for that. And the whole thing is to try to make it as simple as possible in a way so that they just point to this NFT issuance they did and say, anyone who holds an NFT that came from this smart contract that generated it, whether it's one of 1,000, whatever, however many they want to. Then once the end user that holds that NFT hits that site, if it verifies that in MetaMask you have that NFT holding it, then basically the stream is unlocked for you. If not, then there's no way to access it.
When does this come out?
So it actually is live as of a few weeks ago. So we launched the first demo of it with an NFT platform in our ecosystem called Open Theta. So it was actually their founder and myself talking about the technology, and to get it, you had to watch the stream, you had to obtain that NFT, which of course, for demo purposes, we released for a nominal, 0.01 T fuel, but it's just about to show people, to get them to go through the process and understand how easy it is. So very simple. If you just buy that NFT on Open Theta, and then immediately you can unlock that stream once it's in your wallet. Similar can be worked for anyone who wants to then make this either for one-off, or the same thing if, let's say, if you're running pay-per-views of some event, concept works the same. You issue an NFT, anyone who buys that NFT either directly from you, or if it could be on the secondary market that they start trading for access to that, anyone who has it in the wallet then can access the stream. So you can see I kind of hint at where we're looking at beyond like individual content creators. It's very cool, but we also think it can be a really interesting way of controlling for online events, whether it's a conference, whether it's a concert, festival, something like that, where it could be like the festival ticket to watching the live stream. At Glastonbury, like we were talking about, this is how you get access to it. You buy this NFT, maybe it's trading on the secondary markets as well, just like tickets do. And if you have access to that, or if you have the NFT, you have access to the stream.
Yeah, so it means that even if you're at the event and you're kind of back in the campsite and you want to watch what's going on while you're waiting, like, you can just log in and you've got access via your ticket.
Yeah. Actually, that's a really interesting concept too. And maybe they're offered free or heavily discounted. If you already bought the ticket, like, you have the right to the live stream too. But just so that, I mean, hell, even if, at these really large festivals, there's been times where it takes an hour to make it over to the other side, and it's an absolute traffic jam to get through to these. Maybe at least you'd be able to watch it.
You
Almost
should.
like that.
I mean, I know you've spoken to some big brands, but there used to be a similar service that you still had to pay extra for at F1 races and Le Mans. Me and my dad have been going for years, and we always go to Le Mans for the week when that comes. And there used to be, it was called Kangaroo TV, the company, and you used to have to buy a special little box video player, and with that, it gave you access to all the streams on the track. And it was fantastic, 'cause especially something like Le Mans. It's a 24-hour race. You can't sit in the stands for the whole time. You also don't want to pay for the beer in the stadium, so you go back to the campsite for a bit, have a barbecue, have a few more beers, and you put like the TV on if you've got one, and the ability to sort of live stream that using your ticket at those sorts of events, where you say the sorts of events where there's lots going on or it's over a long period of time. People do need to eat, but they don't want to miss stuff. I think there's massive implications there. That, I mean, I would definitely use that if it was available.
Yeah, and because the NFTs are tradable as well, especially if you're talking about these more professional events, right out of the gate, it's also solving another problem you have with counterfeit tickets, or you're trying to purchase tickets on the secondary market, but the secondary market is, the local town Craigslist or Marketplace or whatever, different one for every city, but you don't know if this person's legit, if you're selling big tickets, you don't necessarily meet them in person for all this. All that's simplified if it's done via an NFT. And one thing that we're that can be set up easily too for this is whether it's using Open Theta or one of these type of NFT sites, or even just one that's a simpler version of it. The transaction's automated too. You're not getting the tickets until you give the money, and vice versa. So you don't have to deal with this send first problem, which seems like something out of date. But I had to do that just a few weeks ago, where I basically had to take a flyer, and thankfully they were honest people and sent me the tickets. But it'd be nice if I didn't have to think I was getting burned here.
Yeah, trust anonymous people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's just jump it back slightly. So, why is decentralized video important?
Yeah, so maybe easier to start with the story of why we actually launched this, because we came out of a esports video platform originally called Sliver TV, now Theta TV, which some of our users are familiar with, of course. And we was really trying to solve a problem that we had ourselves. As a small video platform, we're not able to get nearly as much scale when it comes to our cloud services. So, at one point, our bill for CDN, or content delivery networks, for those who don't know, it's basically, you pay Akamai or AWS or one of the other cloud giants to actually move the video from where it's stored to your end users every time they jump on and want to watch a video. So that bill was 50% of our expenses at one point. And it's just not sustainable when you're a smaller platform trying to grow and get off the ground. So our first thought was, with all these pockets of users we had around the world, in Brazil and Poland, where they're all watching the same stream, we realized we were paying 50 times for it to go to 50 users, when in reality it would be much cheaper and more efficient if some of those users are pulling the stream from Akamai or Amazon, and then they can distribute it to the other users in the area. And it depends on a lot of what type of the stream is. It works well for live content and for regional content where a lot of people are watching the same thing in a similar area. That was totally the case for us. So we were trying to fix that problem for ourselves originally, which we did by being able to reduce those costs by 60 or 70%. But then quickly we realized, if this works, this is something that's really useful to a lot of folks, not just our nascent esports platform. So that's when, around that time is when we were raising our Series A from DHBC, that W. Wan led. And we put our heads together and realized this is potentially a solution much bigger than just our site. And so that's when our focus changed to the infrastructure side.
So in terms of how that works, I mean, I've got a gigabit synchronous connection. Can I utilize that to generate revenue by participating in the network, or?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We originally started thinking of it as just, you and I are watching the same video on the same site. And so you share that with other peers nearby. But then a lot of our users in the early days were saying, well, I don't necessarily want to watch that video. I just want to use my excess bandwidth, basically throw it on the network and generate a return in earning tokens for doing so. Similar concept if you know how Filecoin works, for example. You have a lot of excess storage and you want to put it to work and earn on it. So that's when we launched the Edge node software, which is basically exactly what you're referring to. It lets you just run a piece of software that will be looking for jobs and contribute the excess resources wherever it can. Originally bandwidth in the case of video, but like I mentioned, we also expand the Edge node to now it can do video encoding jobs or transcoding. So you're streaming at a certain bit rate and there's other users nearby who need a different bit rate or a different format. You can use your CPU or GPU to do that work and then distribute the transcoded video to the other users. So we're just continuing to expand basically like excess resources you have can continue to be thrown on this network and help out other users nearby.
I mean, does that open an opportunity for GPU miners when Ethereum goes to proof of stake?
That's a good question. We originally thought that that wouldn't really be relevant because if you're that high focused on, if you have that kind of rig, you're going to make more money mining. But yeah, if they're looking for a home now, it actually could make a lot of sense. And the larger and larger these video files get as resolutions go up, as you move into more and more VR content, it takes a lot of processing power actually to go those and transcode.
Yeah, I'm well aware from my history in the industry.
Right. That's absolutely, that could be a great home for them if they need a place to land when the merge finally happens.
So would you need to develop some additional sort of CLI tools to allow your software to be able to utilize like a rig that has 8 GPUs in it, or would the software work as it is? Because obviously it's a difference between, say, the computer I'm on now, it's got 1 GPU, it's programmed to use it, they have to use special software to get access to all of them to run parallel.
Yeah, I'd have to check with our devs to be sure, but my hunch is that you can run it right now with that kind of rig, but my hunch is it's not optimized at all for that. So yes, you could on the software today, but you wouldn't be getting the most bang for the buck considering how high end your rig is with 8 GPUs. So if that starts to look like a niche that's growing in there, then I think we just have to set different parameters for it. Where if you have a user that has that much processing power, how do you optimally use that for the jobs we have available?
Yeah, and you obviously have to see whether, one of the issues with all the hash power, where it's going to go is, I wrote an article on it recently that there's kind of nowhere for it to go to be profitable at the moment, because if you take the hash power that's on Ethereum and put it on like Ergo, for instance, like it's going to push the difficulty up to the point where there's no return. So would you foresee like a similar issue with your network?
It could be, although it could either be that it drives down returns. Well, yeah, I think it would either way. It would be a little different because there's no difficulty adjustment here. But what it would do is means if there's a really serious GPU miner that comes on board, they might just be taking the lion's share of jobs away from other users. So yeah, in the end, it has the net effect of the overall returns for users decline because you're competing with more power. And of course, on the demand side, we would be working to adjust that too. So yeah, there's a lot more supply of GPUs, but our job, of course, is to continue to push for adoption of this and get more and more users on there. They're demanding encoding jobs. And so they generate effectively more work and more return for those miners.
So is there a risk of the decentralization being diluted then, if there's a potential for someone to come in with loads of rigs and then all them to win all the jobs? Does that affect the decentralization at all?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit less of a concern because whoever is doing the most work on it isn't existential to the security of the network the way it is in mining, where if you have one miner, they have control over how the protocol actually works. But I do think it's still a concern just because let's use the extreme example. You've got one of the biggest mining pools on Ethereum right now, and they come over and they immediately are taking all the work on the network, and we haven't expanded enough to force enough new jobs that need to be done, so they're just taking everything that exists right now. You'll probably have a lot of those existing users that are contributing that are going to lose interest or feel this isn't fair, it's not worth my time anymore, and they may leave. And just like like you see in labor markets, once they leave, they don't often come right back, or they change, they go and do something else. And so, yeah, it could end up in the same situation where they have that one miner ends up taking up all the space and basically doing all the work on it. It wouldn't threaten the security of the blockchain, but it certainly would hurt adoption if all the smaller users decide to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. And also, I'm imagining if they're taking all the jobs and then they just switch off their rig, then all the streams are going to go down.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't actually go down, because the way our network works, if I'm a given user trying to watch this stream and it's plugged into our peer-to-peer network, I'll first try to pull it from any of the nearby peers. Like if you are, I'll see if you nearby have that next video segment of 3 seconds, and within about 100 milliseconds, if you don't have it, I will default back to the regular CDN. So it's really of a hybrid system, because what you don't want to do, and what you would never be able to sell to any video platform ever, is this is more efficient most of the time, but if there's a lag or there's no users nearby, the stream's going to cut off for your end user. That's a total non-starter. Like the quality of service to the users is the #1 thing for them. They would rather pay more if they can guarantee that. So very early on, we realized that had to be how this will work, where you try first to use Theta. If not, you always have the backup, so it's totally seamless to the end user, and they never get a buffering or something like that, where it's totally unacceptable in 2022 to have your video platform be buffering.
So, I mean,
but your point is still valid, though, because if they're doing all the work and all of a sudden they shut off, immediately the network has become a lot less valuable, because now you don't have as many workers contributing resources. So you don't want to be beholden to one large entity anyway.
I mean, it's interesting though, because you look at other implementations of blockchain, and a lot of them use something like, say, IPFS as the backup, and are using centralized storage as the front side of it because it's too slow. But you've actually got a situation where it's faster and more efficient using what you're doing, but then the backup is centralized, which I feel is a closer representation of what you want to try and go for with decentralization.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. I hadn't thought of it that way. But yeah, we want the priority to be the decentralized version, because it's complex how the network is going to be for a given stream. Like if it's a super popular one, you'll never have to worry about defaulting back to Akamai, because you're always going to have a peer nearby to pull a video segment from. But the backup is you want to watch a video on demand video, not live, but something where maybe you're the only person in the country that's watching that video right now. You don't have a nearby peer to pull that from via Theta network, so it goes to the centralized backup. But we'll always try to use the decentralized network first.
But so with it being only video, so you can't use Theta like IPFS for sort of image storage on other chains?
So you can't now, although there's nothing in theory about how we designed the network to run where it has to be video files. It could be any type of data segment.
Yeah.
That was just our focus first. And so basically the tools are there if someone wants to build that out, or it's something we may do as well. We've talked a lot about how we haven't done this yet, but we think game patches or updates to software where you have a lot of users downloading the same file around the same time, like the patch.
Like Microsoft does this with Windows, doesn't it? It'll look for the local network for updates for Windows, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so we think that's something that can be brought into all kinds of different patches or game updates, that kind of thing that goes out. We just haven't found the right partner yet to build that out as a concept and do it, but there's nothing in the network architecture that stops that. So we think that's a good opportunity if we can sign up the right partner who wants to pilot that, or if someone else wants to do just with the Theta protocol that's open source, they could build that.
I mean, because to me, it kind of feels like you've got the opportunity to be a better version of IPFS. So it seems like why would you not go down that route?
Yeah, I kind of see it as in some ways we're building something that's similar to IPFS, but we're coming from the other direction of we're starting with
the hardest bit, video.
And working on with the enterprise partners with some we've done some proof of concepts with Samsung, and are working on some interesting stuff with Sony now because they were both seed investors, and so we're trying to leverage those connections to build things that work directly with their existing properties that they have out there. Whereas from what I've seen IPFS, they've started more at the grassroots and trying to build out from that. So I don't think we're that dissimilar in the problems we're trying to tackle. We're just kind of taking it more from we're starting from the biz dev side and trying to build outward and expand it, whereas they started fully decentralized from day one. And I know there's they're still called Filecoin Labs. Whatever the team behind Filecoin, obviously they have a centralized team working on it, but they are more grassroots in how they approach it.
Because I mean, my knowledge of the inner workings isn't sort of super clear, but from what I've been told, the like IPFS don't use what you're leveraging, which is kind of finding someone close to you to send the information, which is why it can be very slow. And that part of it feels like something that IPFS needs to build in, and it's something that's already integral into what you're offering, which is the super clever, useful part of decentralization.
Yeah, it's kind of like a trade-off. In the most basic form is IPFS, I understand it. You're paying for a specific piece of content to be stored. But what you give up in accessibility or knowing you'll have someone nearby is that you know that will be stored somewhere. It might be only one node around the world and it'll be very slow to access it, but you know it'll be there. The trade-off with Theta is there's no guarantee that you will have a peer nearby that has it, because we're not paying people to store that content 24/7, no matter what. What you get instead is you're not paying for something you're not using. If it's available from nearby peers, then you'll pay the small amount of T-Fuel to access that and you'll get it. If it's not, then it bounces back to the centralized system rather than constant. Like in the example I used of a piece of content that you're the only one in the country or only one in the world watching that right now, you're not going to get it on Theta because we're not looking to pay users to store the entire library of content that's almost never watched. Or we're just focusing on the content that's very popular and you're going to find someone nearby that uses it, which is most of the there's kind of like an 80-20 rule at play where, you know, and that's just the example. I don't know if it's literally 80-20, but something close to that, where 20% of the content makes up 80% of the content demanded. And then there's a long tail of stuff that's accessed much less frequently.
So I mean, from again, I know I'm focused on an area that you as a business aren't focused on, but I just find this interesting as like a thought experiment. If you have an image on a server that no one's accessing, you're paying to store it on like an S3 bucket with Amazon or something, and you pay based on interactions. With your model, you're basically saying one of the big problems is when there's a lot of traffic to a site, there can be issues with costs, trying to do elastic scaling. You've kind of got that built in. So it's like you could have all your images stored on like AWS. And then if you get a load of influx of the traffic, can it then just offload it to Theta, which then gets used peer to peer?
Yes, that would be how it would work in our system. And you know, we're building out decentralized storage as well for later this year. And actually have a very rough alpha out already, but the real product's coming later this year. And so we are looking to offer, you know, the former example as well, because I think it's just serving two different kind of use cases. But yeah, you're right. The core of what we do and what's there so far is the latter you mentioned, where you know, you pay dirt cheap to store it because you're not ever going to access it very often. And once in a while, when you do, someone does access it, you pay with AWS. Your high volume content, if you have our SDK plugged in, then it defaults to Theta first. And hopefully when you get those spikes and you have tens of thousands of users accessing it, then you're offloading it on our network at a much lower cost. And if it's not available on ours, then that's okay, because hey, that's only once in a while.
I mean, I personally find that super cool when you speak to people and they say, "Oh, show me a real world use case for blockchain and decentralization." Well, like reducing costs on scalability of like highly accessible content, like that's a brilliant use case for it, and something that thousands of companies around the world need to utilize. So are you seeing? So on that, like, are you seeing much resistance from traditional markets? I know you've got some sort of big players, or.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, is that it's a pretty elegant concept. I think the tricky part is that we've found it very difficult. You know, we've been at this for several years now. We found it very difficult, the fact that you are using a token model to pay users to move or to store that content. It's been very difficult as a sell to enterprises in our experience. And I think part of that is just virtually everyone that we're talking to, if they implement Theta and use this and pay in tokens for this work to be done on the network, it'll be the first time they've ever acquired a token or used a token as part of their business. In, I would say, 95+% of those cases, that would be the first. So like a lot of crypto protocols that are trying to effectively make sales in the enterprise space, we're all trying to pioneer this for the first time. And every time you're trying to make that sale to the product or the services division of that, you're trying to be the first one ever. So, I mean, we're continuing to evolve that pitches and try to understand their pain points, or why does this not work for them? Would it be easier if the token model worked like this? Would that fit more in what you're trying to do, and try to tailor that? But yeah, I won't say it's been easy going. I think we've like every crypto company that's targeting the enterprise, they found it was just because we understood how this worked and we're believers in the crypto native sphere does not mean that's going to be received the same way once you go to traditional business. It's a lot trickier sell.
Have you thought of or explored, or do you do kind of fiat onboarding as part of like an on-ramp to work with them, or?
Yeah, and we've discussed in several ways where we could sort of abstract away the token, and in some cases, perhaps even they continue to pay with fiat, and that's somehow just converted to token demand. But it's a you're trying to thread the needle here, because what we don't want to do is be put in a circumstance where it's just you've probably seen a few examples of this over the years where in the temptation to do that to fit more into the box of traditional enterprises, they abstracted away so much that the token no longer has value, because they're just taking fiat in the door and then performing a service, and they cut out the token. That's not what we're trying to do, and we will hold that line. Like, we're not going to cut off the actual crypto native piece of this protocol we built just as a way to try to sign a deal. Like, we don't want to do something in the short term to get that, but in the long term, you've hamstrung the entire protocol, because it doesn't make sense without the token holders understanding the value they're getting as part of the system.
So just help me understand where it kind of reduces the value, because if you just have a system where the sort of Web 2 companies can pay using USD, it gets transferred into USDC or whatever, then into T-Fuel, how does that stop? How does that negatively affect the ecosystem? Because surely that's just buy pressure on the token, which is going to help it go up.
Yeah. I think if you have a strong mechanism like that, and it definitely is like one-to-one, it's going straight into buying off the open market. I think that still can work. It has the disadvantage of that you're always the centralized party in the middle doing that. But still, I think that works in that case. We've been a little hesitant to do that because it's as a US-based company, it creates a little complications of us constantly buying on the market. And perhaps that's something it could do, but it's always, when we've raised this in discussions with our council, they've not been, their advice is that's getting a little hairy as to what you should be doing as a U.S. company, and whether you're acting as I think a money transmitter business is the official term in the U.S. register.
It's
and
moved to the Cayman Islands, mate.
Yeah, we're not trying to get into we're not trying to dip our toes into anything that the U.S. will look at as we're acting as an exchange, but that could be an option. And I think you are right that if it's bulletproof, that the money coming in for any of these contracts and is transparent and it creates token demand for it, that should work the same as if they bought it on the open market. I think that's right.
Cool. Right, so, I mean, thanks so much. It's amazing answers. We've been here for like 35 minutes already. So I'm going to finish off with something that I ask everyone to do. It's called Fill or Shill. So you now have the option to fill talking about something non-crypto related, but you're not allowed to use or R for 60 seconds, or talk about a project completely unrelated to you or Theta that you think is worth having a look at.
Got it. So are you prompting me, or what, is there a prompt I answer here, or how's it going to work?
No, it's just you have the option. You can either pick a project that you're not related to that you think is really cool, or you can fill for 60 seconds, and I will time you, but it can't be anything related to crypto.
Nothing related to crypto.
Mm-hmm.
I can keep it, I guess, broad enough that it's not directly related to crypto. I think it's topical.
Okay, so you're going for a fill.
Yeah, let's do a
Okay.
fill.
Okay, go on.
And I guess just want to speak on the broader the broader macro market and everything that's happening, because a lot of the people in our community, just anyone I talk to, has a lot of questions now about what it means for investing, for technology, and all the tech companies are losing value as well. And I guess I'll just say, well, I wasn't around for the dot-com bust. I have been in crypto long enough to see the 2017 and 2018 downturn and worked through that at Theta Labs the whole time. And that one was very painful because, it felt like I gave you an arm. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It felt like it might not come back. And so we did what we said we were going to do, and we kept our heads down and kept building and kept the faith. But there are some times where we thought maybe enterprises and users will not come back to blockchain again. And I would just say this time feels completely different. Everyone we talk to in the enterprise side is not reacting the way they did in 2018. They've been through this before. They know this is just market cyclical, and they know it's macro, and they understand that the work just has to continue, and to not let NASDAQ or crypto prices influence what they're doing. And I think they get that because they do it for a living. But I think the community and the everyone involved needs to take that to heart as well, because I see a lot of people getting discouraged the last couple of weeks, last 2 months or so. And I think it's very important, especially if you're a builder, just keep doing what you're doing, because this has happened several times before and it's going to keep happening. If you're in whether it's tech, crypto, doesn't matter. It's a speculative market. There's lots of new things being built and a lot of uncertainty. You have to just put one foot in front of the other and just keep building, and it will work itself out. So just don't let yourself fall victim to short-term thinking and let it change what you actually believed in and why you may have gotten involved in the first place.
I think that's fantastic advice. I'm actually writing a piece at the moment on exactly that, and I can attest to the fact that the rest of the industry sentiment is just as bullish as you on that, saying the same things. And I see the same whenever I'm talking to projects. If anything, everyone seems to be sighing a little bit of relief that they can finally focus on things without the stress of a bull market and additional kind of pressures that come with it. And yeah, trying to put the head down and solve the problems that have come out of the last bull run ahead of the next time, and use the time. Yeah, it's just a bit of a breathing room to actually focus on building. So that's brilliant.
Yep.
Okay,
Totally.
so what's the future look like for Theta? Where should people go for more information? What should they do? What should they try out? What should they test?
Yeah, check us out at thetalabs.org. That's sort of the umbrella site where you can check out the different products that we offer and the different pieces of the Theta ecosystem. And yeah, from an end user standpoint, easiest place to get involved. If you want to put video on any app, website, Theta Video API, try it out. Theta Drop is our NFT platform if you're interested on that side. And yeah, follow us on all the usual social channels. We got a lot of great stuff that we're working on. And like you said, we're all, it can be negative in a bear market. The silver lining is let's just put our heads down more and just build stuff. So lots of cool stuff coming down the pipeline this year.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Wes. And we'll see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.
Sounds great. Nice talking to you.